Thanks, everyone. I would like to introduce our next USDA panel, and we appreciate Administrator Brand and her team giving the 30,000-foot level exposure to USDA rural business. And now we're going to drill down a little bit more. And again, in the theme of our program, this is a dialogue. So everybody, thank you all for agreeing to not only speak, but to take questions from the room. And we think that's going to be really important for today. And so we really appreciate, I'll start from the end. Fred Peacock has been with USDA and works with energy programs. And we're going to let Fred share a little bit more about those programs. And then in the center here, we have Kate Lewis, a senior analyst. As you heard earlier, Kate has the seasoned experience with USDA BioPreferred and has worked with it prior to making the transition that the 2018 Farm Bill did in putting it into the USDA Rural Development Mission. And then we're excited to have Venus Welch-White with us today. And Venus brings some new energy to new programs within rural business for us to learn more about. It was exciting to see you with us yesterday we did some plant tours here in Georgia and having your questions about the energy efficiency of buildings and how do you make all of that. So we want to kind of bring this together a little bit more. So Fred, could we ask you to start with sharing with us a little bit more about the programs that you run day to day?
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. I see that Betty is here, and Mark and Andy have stepped out, but I do want to correct one misconception about what they said about one of our programs. The Biorefinery Renewable Chemical and Biobased Product Program is one program that is designed to take technologies that are brand new, like Jacob breast guards and biosynthetic, and commercialize them. But what they didn't say was you can do that kind of project in Atlanta or Omaha or any large city. So that's a very exciting program that I've had the privilege of working on. It often uses bio-based products, biomass. It could be wood, it could be soy, it could be corn types of products that are non-starch. It could involve a lot of things, and it's something that's helped to create new industries and new products. And the most exciting thing about it is it pulls from rural communities, from biomass, and brings it to the marketplace. So I've had the privilege of working with National Biodiesel Board, and one of the things that they've done is they've brought a lot of their product through mandates, which are an effective use of policy. A gentleman talked about tax credits, about driving the bioeconomy. It's an effective use of policy in New York where people are interested in cleaner air. And they, through NBB, have invested money in BioHeat to train people who aren't interested in going to college but can go through a program where they're working in the construction and heat trades so they can buy in New York City a $750,000 home. So that's a wonderful thing because it knits communities together. It pulls through. And that's, I think, what so impressed me about the tour is that we have an opportunity to work with you as stakeholders through some of our other agencies like ARS in a collaborative way. I have a little bit of money where we can focus on things that are interested in you that help drive this economy forward. So before I take up a lot of time, I want to pass it off to Kate, who will talk about BioPreferred, I think.
All right. And Kate, Mike Erker, could you help us pull up Kate's PowerPoint?
I guess while Mike is doing that, I really wanted to say thank you to everybody for your time and your attention and your investment, not only for this USB Stakeholders Dialogue, which is maybe, Karen, the 10th one that you've put together. This is not a new engagement. So I really wanted to thank USB for your efforts in this space and all of USB's members and supporters. Obviously, you can see from today, USDA considers ourselves a supporter of USB. The BioPreferred program is definitely a supporter of USB's efforts, particularly in the area of soy new uses. Yes, we manage a program at USDA, but that program wouldn't be in the place it is today. And I'll share a little bit of the quantitative information about the program's growth over the past couple of years without people and your companies and your vote of confidence in our agency, and backing up that vote of confidence by making a financial commitment to research and development of innovative bio-based products, commercialization, and then obviously working with us to certify and label those products to help the market pull. And it's really fulfilling to see all of our program supporters here today, and a sincere thanks to you from the BioPreferred program.
So do you want to run through some of your slides? Would you like to do?
Sure.
Advance your slides and share a little bit of an update on the program?
Most or many of you are familiar with the BioPreferred program. I have 3 slides, which are just going to drive the brief amount of time I'm going to talk today, because while the program has transitioned into rural development, RBCS, we have joined colleagues and have joined additional programs that can really help you and your businesses going forward. So these 3 slides will just provide a snapshot of progress of the BioPreferred program, but Fred, Venus, and I really look forward to spending the balance of this panel talking about other rural development, rural business cooperative service programs that can help you, hopefully as much as the BioPreferred program has been able to help you over the past many years. So how is it going with BioPreferred? I put this together just to give a graphical snapshot of the past 4 years in certification applications. And what you can see here was a huge milestone for our program group this year. In 2019, as of the end of July, we surpassed the amount of product certification applications in about 9 months. We surpassed the most amount of product certification applications and the processing of those than we ever had before. So in 9 months of time, we certified more products than we had in any previous year. And so clearly what that says to us is that we're in a really unique space, and there's a tremendous amount of momentum, more so now than before, in commercial, federal, and consumer interest in these innovative bio-based products. So the first slide demonstrated growth, output. How we're looking to move the program forward isn't just based on output, or busyness. That's one aspect of it. But going forward, now that we're in RD, we're really going to be focused on strategic program growth. And what these 2 graphs show you is I looked with the certification and program support team at all of the product categories for products we were certifying in August 2015, 4 years ago. And then we looked at what we were certifying just this past August. So the red product categories are product categories that are among our most popular certified products in 4 years ago that we are no longer certifying. The green categories on the right are products in categories with a high degree of growth or certification in this August, but we weren't seeing August 4 years ago. And then the black product categories remain the same. We're still certifying products in all those categories. And so this is the type of analytics or analysis that the team and I do to be able to understand, working with markets. Are we leading the markets in presenting them information about bio-based products? Are we following the markets? It's a little bit of both, but as a result of our program implementation over the past 10 years, this is the data and the analytics that we have access to, and the team utilizes in terms of making sure that we're best supporting prospective participants and current participants going forward. Okay. And then I know you might have a lot of questions about how is BioPreferred going to utilize the assets of being in a new agency or a new part of USDA. We're still figuring that out. As Andy mentioned this morning, we're really grateful, my colleague Vernell and I, because there's 2 federal staff that work on the bio-based markets or bio-preferred program. So we're really looking forward to understanding more, and we do have additional support capacity to help us with day-to-day as well as strategic issues related to the implementation of the program, both for the federal mandates and for certification and labeling. So we are really looking forward and are actively learning about, with Andy, Mark, and the administrator, really how we can utilize the best value of rural business cooperative services infrastructure. We have state offices. In each state, there are area offices. And so going forward, we'll look forward to utilizing that infrastructure and then positioning BioPreferred as well with the portfolio of programs to be able to provide us some additional capacity or bench strength in moving the program forward.
All right, and Venus, we've got several of the programs that you know very well identified up on the screen. So do you want to take it from there on what you're managing day to day?
Certainly. So first of all, good morning. I also would like to echo Karen, thank you so much for having us. We've had a fantastic time. We had a great time yesterday. And so really, I want to make sure that what we kind of walk away with is some opportunity. I would like the audience and our new stakeholders, our existing stakeholders, to really see the value proposition in our programs and what they have to offer. So my current role, I'm the National Rural Energy Program Coordinator. And what that really means is I work across all of our programs and really engaging stakeholders, the policy support aspect, as well as our regulatory compliance, and then sprinkled in a little technical reviews on our 9003. And so I would say, and just kind of to echo the earlier panel, because you heard from our leadership, and that was amazing, it was fantastic. And so I think Administrator Brand and Andy and Mark, and really kind of setting the platform in the standpoint of the federal role and how historically USDA as well as other federal agencies have really been drivers in the standpoint of advancing certain technologies. If you look at even the infrastructure from like the electric program, and so what that looks like. And so we're really at the forefront, and we consider ourselves partners very much in the standpoint of utilizing how do we advance the bioeconomy in this particular space. So without kind of going through all of our programs, I'm going to kind of talk more kind of across the space in the standpoint of really where the opportunities allow. We have grant programs as well as guaranteed loan programs, and I would like to just make sure that we put our guaranteed loan program specifically within RBS are not the last lender options. They are not, you can't get any other capital from any other place. And I know that there are certain programs within the federal space that kind of require that. There's an other credit, test required. Our programs are not like that. They are really a tool in the standpoint of our guaranteed loans and really an opportunity for businesses and lenders to get better terms. It's beneficial for the business as well as the lender. And so there's opportunity to sell those guarantees on the secondary market. Oftentimes you're able to leverage better terms, longer payback, economic benefits that you may or may not have been able to obtain. And so we really want to make sure that from a public-private partnership perspective that we are evaluating this as not that you can't get capital in any other place, but how can you leverage our programs to bring businesses into fruition, to expand your existing technologies, working capital. There's just a lot of opportunities in the standpoint of what our programs can do and really making sure that you all are aware of the types of programs that we have. So one, I would say, kind of and going through when I was amazed at Sinlon and the other places that we use, and the first question I had was, what's your energy cost? What does that look like? You've got all this equipment, it's running, it's warm, it's cold, you've got cooling, you have these requirements from a manufacturing perspective. Where are some opportunities? Your lighting, old incandescent lights versus the LED lights. Where are some opportunities that our programs can support what you're doing and increase your bottom line? And so those are conversations that we have all the time, in the standpoint of what USDA does. So I'll mention one program, our Rural Energy for America program, which is a joint grants as well as a guaranteed loan program that supports energy efficiency improvements. This is across the space, anything we call old to new. So old equipment is not as efficient as new equipment. And so if you're able to demonstrate energy savings, if your business is a small business per SBA's definition of small business, if your project is located in a rural area from a business perspective, you are potentially eligible to apply for a 25% grant, total eligible project cost, not only for efficiency improvements, but also for renewable energy installation. And so that can be solar, wind, geothermal, hydro. We do waste to energy projects, anything that's commercially available. There is potentially some financial resources that can support that. On our guaranteed loan side, we can do a max of 75% of total eligible project cost. People are able to apply for joint both grant and guaranteed loan. And so there's a 25% equity requirement, but USDA, because we are just awesome, we also have a business and industry guaranteed loan that you can couple with that. And so our business and industry guaranteed loan program allows a little bit more of a breadth in the standpoint of the types of projects that you can do. But any project that's located in a rural area, so you think manufacturing, 50,000, population 50,000 or less, but it doesn't have to meet the small business requirements. So if you've got a major corporation, essentially, you can apply for those funds and you can come out with very little out-of-pocket cost. And then if you take it and couple that with any type of tax credits, so you've got the renewable tax credits. I don't know how, we haven't really talked about this, but the opportunity zone tax credits, we're seeing more of that. 40% of those opportunity zones are in rural areas. So there's a lot of opportunity in the standpoint of the financial aspect and really ultimately increasing the bottom line and supporting rural communities and economies, because that's what we're here for. And so again, we can kind of talk more across the space, and Fred mentioned our 9003 program, but we have a lot of different programs that if they are not that are aligned to either work together, that we can kind of, I hate to call it a capital stack, but we can kind of stack, or they're kind of pipeline. So you can apply for a 9003 program, you can do a new bio-based product, and then you can get a bio-preferred label. So we're really here to support and help, and we consider ourselves key partners in driving the bioeconomy.
So thanks. And based on what you just said, will there be more alignment in the future? So you're a USDA bio-preferred product manufacturer. Will there somehow be a pipeline to get you into some of these other programs? That's one question. And the second one, I think, is both for Fred and for you, Venus. As you look at these programs, and it is a substantial amount of work to get into a program like this. We have to be honest about that. So can you give us, some tips on what are good fits, that make it, what you've seen of these are really good candidates, and so people can kind of self-screen themselves as they move forward on this investment of time and talent to pursue these programs?
Well, I'll first say that we are with the government and we are here to help. So we start off with that. We are public servants and we're here to support. I would say that depending on the program, and part of this is really an education component, and we recognize that. We are always constantly evaluating. We have our own due diligence internally to the federal government that we are required to evaluate our processes, and we're required to make sure that we are supporting our customers. And so there's a lot that we do internally to make sure that we're able to streamline application processes. We've had a couple iterations of our REAP program, so we're now on a tiered aspects. So the larger the total project cost, the more paperwork is required. Smaller projects don't have all the paperwork that's required. A smaller project will only require an energy assessment, not necessarily energy audit. So there are things that internally we've done to make sure, with the support of Congress, to make sure that the burden is not so great for potential applicants. And so we're always willing to take suggestions, but internally we do work that we understand that it can be very cumbersome, and there are some potential barriers that are hard for if you're not familiar with our programs. The other piece in the standpoint of, and I'll hand it over to Fred, just more of an overarching. We have, and I'll reiterate, we have state offices, we have energy coordinators, we have regional energy coordinators and regional people and state folks and local folks and national office people that are really here to help. We meet with potential applicants and clients all the time. They'll come in, they've got this idea, they want to find out what resources are available. again, we're public servants and we're here to support, and we're happy to do so. So if you make telephone calls and say, I'm interested, where are some resources, not only from even our own internal, RBS, but also does NRCS have resources available? Does FSA have resources available? Or is this a better fit for maybe an SBA? I mean, we really evaluate and we really look and see where are the best fits and how can we help our ultimate customers and our clients and our stakeholders. And so I will say that, we're here to really support. We offer on a regular basis, if you're interested in our guaranteed loan program, the lender's our applicant. So we very rarely don't talk to the borrower. However, we're happy to get on the phone and have a meeting with your borrower or with the lender and to talk through the application process, to talk through the benefits, to talk through what that looks like in the standpoint if you're doing a renewable energy project, you need a feasibility study, you're talking about PPAs, that's stuff that if the lender doesn't necessarily know that space, they might not be comfortable with it. And we're here to buffer that and to really bridge that gap. So I would say kind of across the space, overarching, please hold us accountable because we're here to support. But I'll give it over to Fred as far as the specifics with our programs.
So actually, we're a lot easier to deal with, I think, than maybe other government agencies. We have 47 state offices, and within each state, there are area offices. So how does that translate to the woman I was sitting next to a few moments ago who asked me about a solar power facility, panels on a farm? It's very easy to get a REAP grant. It's not guaranteed, but because our energy coordinators are so proficient with working with applicants, the analysis that I've done in the last few years shows that they have a better than a 60 or close to a 60 to a 90% chance in some years of getting that. So that's very, very good. And I credit our staff with being realistic and working with applicants. The minimum for energy efficiency is a $2,500 grant, and the maximum is $250,000. But we've done some large grants in energy efficiency and renewable energy with the ethanol industry. We're teed up to work with the biodiesel industry to do the same thing. And as far as the 9003 projects go, there's a bit of a different type of applicant base where we're working with somebody who's making a polyhydroxyalkanate, which is a biodegradable product which has been used in sutures inside the body. It degrades. I noticed biobased and biodegradable. So applications like that do require a full-blown feasibility study. And if it's a project over $40 million, they're going to need a credit assessment from an independent credit-rated agency. It requires a really tough scrub because those are government-guaranteed monies to an independent lender, but they're also projects that a lot of people just don't have an appetite for. So that type of thing, we've worked with a number of industries, like an industry that wanted to use trash to make jet fuel. That's hard to do, but we do that at USDA. We work with an MIT chemical engineer who works for a government agency. We work with anaerobic digesters. We have experts that we rely on outside of our system that are biochemical engineers. And we have a very arduous credit score that we use on those projects. So the barrier on 9003 is it just takes a little bit more inertia. But on our REAP projects, it's a lot easier to deal with. And projects that are a couple $100,000 do require a feasibility study, but we assist businesses, and if it's not energy, a lot of businesses that we saw the other day, we can work with them on B&I. And we have resources that are available through NIFA on feedstock development. We have resources where we want to work with you at ARS. We want to work across agencies and push what you're doing and help you. That's what we're here to do.
Thank you. And, we've got a lot. Our theme is driving demand, but driving demand is for the farmers and the whole supply chain, no matter what bio-based product you make. And I know a lot of our visuals are focused around the automotive sector, but we've got a lot of folks in the room who make products that are great fits. And we give a shout out to our Kansas State Department of Architecture. We're glad to have them with us today. So we've got some future architects who could be using these products in buildings. and we've got carpet and insulation, and USDA is doing a lot of work in the rural housing and that space. How do we bring together bio-based products into rural housing? Or rural utility service, which we have, Cargill has an FR3 electrical product. How do we create the pipeline so those products get used?
So RUS does have a technical standards branch, and I've been contacted by other people so that if you have a product at Cargill, and I noticed they were in power generation, I didn't know about that, they can go to RUS and they can get listed so that they could be used there. So a lot of getting on a government list is just a useful thing, and you go through a process, and so it could be utilized by a rural electric cooperative. As far as the housing service, that's the majority of what we do in RD. And so it's actually a low-hanging fruit opportunity to use our contacts to contact developers, to make improvements in energy efficiency, to make improvements in building materials, and to put bio-based products into what is the vast majority of our direct and indirect loan guarantees, and to improve that which is necessary to sustain a rural population, along with the other piece, having jobs in rural areas where we're building biorefineries and maintaining jobs in rural communities. So we do have contacts there. We'd be happy to try and facilitate those relationships, work with you on R&D, work with you on the practical matters, and work with you in that space to the extent that we can. Be happy to do that.
I think the first step to answering your question, Karen, has been taken with the 2018 Farm Bill and that provision to move the BioPreferred program, which before had been located in a staff office part of USDA, to a mission area that focuses on program delivery. And Andy has challenged Vernell and I to understand the RD infrastructure across RBCS, Rural Business Cooperative Services, that's all of us here with you today, RUS, Rural Utility Service, and Rural Housing Service, to understand the natural nexus as those programs as an additional market pull for the specification and utilization of a wide variety of bio-based products.
Did you want to add to anything on that? All right. No.
So I'll just add more in context. The government is a huge consumer, and so each federal agency has a small business office in the standpoint of the contracting piece. And so while we don't necessarily work with every single one across the space, I think that, again, just to kind of mimic and echo, there are opportunities. And so we're happy to facilitate what that looks like and really begin to delve into that particular space.
And our panels, as we proceed throughout the day, we're going to talk a lot more about this beyond a list. People get on a list, but what causes the demand pull? And so we want to have further conversation in panels about that this afternoon, but want to open up to the audience now for questions. I've been posing a lot of questions, but this is your chance to ask these folks how these programs fit for you.
Any questions out there?
I'm surprised that we've got this group being this quiet. Yeah.
I don't know if this is really a question, actually. Just, Karen just did a shout out. We're from Kansas State University. We represent architecture, plan, and design. We have architecture, interior architecture, industrial design, and furniture design. And I'm wondering, obviously you're stimulating economics and business, kind of developing products, but what can the academy do? Really, the architects and designers are the ones that are, creating, either misuse or good use of products in the build environment and in the packaging and product development. And at our school, we believe in design and making. We want to get the materials in the students' hands. I mean, that's one of the best ways for them to learn a better way, better processes. And the programs, I don't have anything to say or question. I just wonder, is there an educational drive also that we can help establish to make sure that the students, the next generation, is thinking in a better way? I mean, that's what we're trying to do, but I think we could really use your help in making sure, and this goes to everybody in the room as far as what your products are. If you can just help us get that information and that product in front of our students, I think we could do wonders for the next generation.
So that's a fantastic question. And so we didn't really go kind of this level of granularity in the standpoint of all of what USDA does. And so again, kind of piggybacking off of what leadership discussed this morning, there are 17 different agencies in USDA. And one of them is NIFA, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And they are an external extramural funding arm. And so there are people that they meet with their stakeholders and they put up RFAs specifically around certain types, recognizing that their research needs, and that is particular a way to either access funding or even communicate that information. Oftentimes what we'll see in our 9003 program, which is our biorefinery program, that a lot of those innovations, they actually begin on college campuses. They begin in labs. And so there either is a need in the standpoint of better building materials, or there's this kind of gap and there's some opportunity. Sometimes the driver could be even regulatory. We've seen an outlaw of plastic straws. I went home in St. Petersburg and I got a little paper straw from Starbucks. I'm like, what is this? We can't use straws anymore. So I think that it depends on, there's a lot of the things that are going to be driving what that looks like in the standpoint of, is it regulation and this is outlawed, or is there a need, or limited resources? I think there's a lot of things that kind of go into what that space looks like. However, from a government perspective, there's a lot of different kind of, I would say, avenues of entry on how we do what we do. And so I would highly encourage you, and I will also, we can reach out and find somebody at NIFA that does that, that in where that connection looks in the standpoint of even possibly even funding for you to do the work that you do on your campus. And we also have ARS too. They do research, but they are a government lab, and so our ARS is they are the Ag Research Service, and so there's a lot of different agencies, laboratories that they conduct different types of research as well, and so that potentially is even a possible collaboration of what that could look like. And I think our staff visited NREL a couple weeks ago, and so even that's Department of Energy, and they do research as well. So I think that when we're really kind of taking a step back and being very strategic and very intentional on what the needs are and how best to utilize the resources that are available.
One of the NIFA grants that Venus just mentioned, it's entering its third and final year of implementation. NIFA has supported an initiative called CABLE, CABLE, Consortium for Advanced Bioeconomy Leadership Education. And this grant has developed a cohort of 20 universities across the country who are university professors and administrative staff are mentoring undergraduate and graduate level students in issues related to the bio-based economy, so biofuels, biopower, and bio-based products. Please talk to me afterward to get some more information about the CABLE Group's progress, possibly becoming a participant, and talking about what happens after this third and final year of the grant.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm Ken Mitchell with Universal Textile up in Dalton. With the housing development, the rural housing development, I go back and think about the architects and the designers and things like that. Would the USDA actually specify through architecture, through some of the designers, some of those products that need to be in the housing in order for it to be either bio-preferred or more preferred to be there? For example, one of our companies does carpet. We do a coating on the back. Demilac's doing insulation, which is going to also help with keeping the R value and keeping the heat and the cool in these homes and the rural development houses that way. Is that something that would be part of the program, that from a procurement point of view from the government side?
So it's possible it could be, but what we can do is follow up and ask, because the architects in project support are adjacent to our offices. And the other thought there is the U.S. Green Building Council, Fund Projects, LEED Buildings. We can make some contacts, but that can also be something that we try to market with you or open up contacts to do that. And so we can make a commitment to do that, because a lot of this is, as you say, it's publicity. It kind of reminds me of the model that NBB had, in a sense. Back in the days in the Palouse, when soy wasn't really being used as a fuel, people decided to try to do it. And they had a tremendous hill to climb to move that needle forward. And the same can be done with your industry by leveraging publicity, education, outreach, myth busting,
Sure.
that type of activity.
You kinda
But
get-
I'll get with you and make.
Yeah, you get both sides of the coin, right? You get the biorenewable product in the home, and then you also get the extra energy benefits and reducing energy power bills and things like that by doing that as well. You get a double bang out of that. So.
Andy?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up with you. I mean, I think this is a great example of why we're here.
Hey,
is
Andy.
To hear kind of
Andy.
this opportunity, because when you talk about housing, as Fred mentioned, that's easily 60% of the RD of that $225 billion portfolio. So we're doing either home purchase, new construction, and rehabilitation. You're just giving me an idea there. We participate in, on an annual basis, a National Rural Housing Month. Let's follow up. Let's talk. Is there an opportunity to show a demonstration? Is there an opportunity of a environmentally friendly, safer product without chemicals? Can you is that something we can do? I think we were open to that. On some of that, I think it's an opportunity. I don't know if it may take legislation or something even, but to put in some kind of requirements for new construction. But why, from my perspective, I want to see that those opportunities for safer, more environmentally friendly housing is not just for an urban area, that it is going into some of our rural areas as well.
Andy, let me just follow on something that just came to mind. If you have a product that's more energy efficient, we can't push the product, but if you have adapters that want to use that, and I'm not a big proponent of housing insulation and windows, but we do that within REAP and energy efficiency. So that's an opportunity where we can use a conventional program. We can't push the product for you, but if you have applicants that want to use it, by all means, you're eligible. Let's do that. And it happens to be bio-preferred and so on and so forth. We can do that.
So, and Ken, your idea of this fits aligned with some new language that came in the Farm Bill, which was report language that's created opportunities for Biobased Markets program to have public-private partnerships. And the thought behind that report language was industry needs to be part of helping identify these opportunities. So I'd share to all of you is Ken's example, as well as Harold mentioned earlier on the panel. You're working in road materials, as are numerous folks in this room. So is there a way for industry players to get together? We don't have a bio-based trade association, but can we get cooperation going amongst industry players and work with USDA on a regional strategy, for example, with roads, because that's a big deal. The housing and the roads, I think of the audience in this room, those could be two really significant opportunities for public-private partnerships. So feedback on that?
So the opportunity to work with roads, I may be wrong, but we can reach out to DOT. We don't have the best contacts there, but we can start that conversation. We're part of a big federal family. It includes commerce, it includes trade, it includes all kinds of things. So we can try to open up doors. That's a worthwhile opportunity to move the bioeconomy forward for our stakeholders. You in the room, you're doing most of the work. We're just here to try to facilitate things. That's our mandate. And we're given that by the people. So we're welcome to use those opportunities that you'd like to direct us in.
So one thing that I will say, in the standpoint of really looking at federal initiatives and leveraging, when administration and leadership tells us we're charged with doing certain things, I think that it's helpful to have feedback from our stakeholders. And so while we're not necessarily DOT, we do have mandates to really look at the infrastructure aspects of it. And so this dovetails very nicely into the standpoint of what that looks like and how we can potentially partner and collaborate in those areas. So we're always open into figuring out ways to do those things. And again, I hate to kind of like honk on the housing component. There's a pilot going on right now with RHS and Auburn University with a smaller, more cost-effective. I don't know if it filters into the energy, but there are things that, in the standpoint that happened, that we can maybe look into, and maybe there's, if that can be coupled. Again, we're not directly with that particular pilot program right now. However, it's something that we can kind of get more information and get back, because I think these things happen. How they're publicized, not always so much, but there are definitely initiatives and partnerships that occur on a regular basis.
Thank you. We can have one more comment, and then we need to move forward.
I just want to say, from rural development, our motto has been is we can build a community from the ground up. So we are talking from essential infrastructure, from telephone, electricity, broadband, to the housing. Because you brought up the road, the issue of roads. We've got a program. Our community facilities program can build roads. So at any point, we're working in there, we're building hospitals, we're building schools, we're building everything. There is some point at one of our programs or one of our areas where some area of the bioeconomy or a bio-based product is going to plug into rural development.